Britain in the 1960s was a decade of hope, ambition, and deeply regrettable automotive decisions. Families across the country saved for months, sometimes years, dreaming of that shiny new car parked proudly outside their terraced house. But for thousands of buyers, what waited in that driveway became a mechanical nightmare. Rust that appeared overnight, engines that gave up without warning, repairs that drained bank accounts dry. These weren't just bad cars. They were genuine betrayals. Today we are counting down 10 worst British cars families regretted buying in the 1960s, and the number one car on this list? It's almost impossible to believe families actually bought it. Stay with us. This is going to hurt. Number 10. Morris Oxford. The Morris Oxford looked entirely reasonable on a 1960s showroom floor. Solid, sensible, unmistakably British. Families across the Midlands and beyond signed the paperwork feeling confident, even genuinely proud. But the Oxford carried hidden problems you'd only discover once it was far too late to turn back. The 1.5-litre B-Series engine was reasonably competent on paper, yet owners quickly reported sluggish performance, inconsistent cold starting, and fuel consumption that made absolutely no sense for a car this modest size. But that wasn't even the worst part. The bodywork rusted with alarming speed. Not years later. Months later. Around the wheel arches first, then along the sills, then seemingly everywhere at once. Repair bills started mounting before the first service interval had even passed. Imagine spending your hard-earned savings on a car that was quietly dissolving beneath you. Mechanics who opened these cars regularly shook their heads in disbelief. The Oxford promised family reliability. What it delivered was something else entirely. Number 9. Singer Gazelle. The Singer Gazelle always looked a little more upmarket than it actually was. That was rather the point. Roots Group marketed it enthusiastically as the sophisticated choice, a genuine step above the ordinary family saloon, with slightly more refined trim and an interior that felt almost premium by 1960s standards. Families wanting to impress the neighbors chose the Gazelle without hesitation. And that decision often became deeply embarrassing. The 1.6-litre engine struggled noticeably on hills, consuming oil at a rate that alarmed even experienced mechanics. But the real heartbreak came in the bodywork. The Gazelle rusted underneath in ways that weren't visible until the damage was catastrophic. Floor panels rotted through quietly while owners remained completely unaware. What mechanics found underneath was genuinely unbelievable. Structural corrosion that made these cars dangerous to drive. Families had paid premium money for a car with a respectable badge hiding serious mechanical problems underneath every single exterior panel. The Gazelle looked impressive, but it wasn't. Number 8. Austin Cambridge. The Austin Cambridge was BMC's vision of the ideal British family car. Conservative in style, built for practicality, marketed directly at the kind of father who wanted something dependable. By the early 1960s, it was one of the most commonly seen cars on British roads. That popularity made the disappointment all the more painful. The Cambridge shared its 1.6-litre B-Series engine with several other BMC models, and the problems traveled across every single one of them. Oil leaks developed with quiet consistency. Thermostats failed. The cooling system overheated at the worst possible moments, on hot summer motorway drives with the entire family packed inside. And this is where things became truly uncomfortable. The interior quality was poor from new. Trim faded, rattles appeared quickly, and the gear change felt vague in a way that made driving genuinely tiring. But the corrosion was the real killer. Families discovered the true and full extent of the ongoing corrosion damage far too late. Number 7. Hillman Minx. The Hillman Minx was one of the most popular family cars Britain produced in the late 1950s and throughout the 1960s. Roots Group pushed it hard as the sensible, affordable, and practical choice for growing families. Millions of brochures. Millions of promises. And for a while, buyers believed every single one of them. The Minx used a 1.5-litre overhead valve engine that on paper looked perfectly adequate. In reality, it developed a persistent tendency to overheat during long journeys, particularly in summer. Coolant levels dropped without warning. Then came the carburetor issues that left owners stranded at genuinely inconvenient moments. Can you imagine your family holiday ending on the hard shoulder? That happened more times than Roots Group would ever admit publicly. The bodywork corroded rapidly, starting beneath the rear wings and spreading inward. Second-hand Minxes became notoriously unreliable almost overnight. The gap between the Minx's advertised image and daily ownership reality was frankly astonishing to any truly honest outside observer. Number 6. Vauxhall Viva HA. The Vauxhall Viva launched in 1963 as Britain's answer to affordable small family motoring, and initial sales were genuinely promising. It looked modern. It felt contemporary. And for a brief moment, the Viva represented exactly what British families wanted from a compact car. Then reality arrived. The 1.0-litre engine produced just 44 horsepower, which sounds modest, but the real issue was how unreliably those horses showed up. Starting problems on cold, damp mornings became the defining daily ownership experience for thousands of buyers. And one hidden flaw made the situation dramatically worse. The Viva's body construction was critically poor. Rust didn't creep in gradually, it attacked aggressively and structurally. Sill sections collapsed. Floor pans rotted away. Cars that were barely 3 years old were frequently beyond economic repair. The bodywork was so thin in places that mechanics could practically push their fingers through it. Few buyers ever realized what this would eventually cost them. The Viva's reputation never truly recovered. Number 5. Austin 1100. The Austin 1100, launched in 1962, was hailed as a genuinely revolutionary piece of British engineering. Sir Alec Isigonis designed a front-wheel drive family car with hydroelastic suspension that promised a smooth ride no British family had ever experienced at this price point. The brochures were glowing. The reviews were enthusiastic. And early sales confirmed it as a genuine British success story. But a bigger disaster was quietly waiting around the corner. The hydroelastic suspension, innovative as it was, became a source of constant misery. Interconnected fluid chambers meant that when one end failed, the whole system deteriorated. Replacing components was expensive and complex. Then came the rust. The 1100's bodywork corroded with breathtaking consistency, around the floor pan, beneath the rear seat, along every single seam. BMC's build quality control was, in places, essentially non-existent. Engines leaked oil from new. The real nightmare started after only a few months of ownership. Families felt betrayed by a car they had genuinely loved. Number 4. Triumph Herald. The Triumph Herald arrived in 1959 and was still selling strongly throughout the 1960s, which should tell you something about British family car choices at the time. It had a certain charm. A one-piece tilting bonnet that gave mechanics easy access, and a turning circle that made parking almost effortless. Families liked what they saw. But the Herald was hiding something serious. The chassis-based construction, unusual for British family cars of the era, created specific structural weaknesses that owners had no way of anticipating. Then came the handling revelation that genuinely shocked automotive journalists. At speed on corners, the Herald's swing-axle rear suspension could produce sudden, dramatic oversteer, a terrifying snap that caught drivers completely off guard. Several serious incidents were directly linked to this dangerous characteristic. Would you trust a car like this with your children inside? The Herald's 1.1-litre engine also suffered persistent mechanical unreliability. Cam followers wore prematurely. The electrical system, typically British, failed with spectacular regularity. Number 3. Standard Vanguard Phase 3. The Standard Vanguard Phase 3 represented something genuinely ambitious from the Standard Triumph Company. Built for those who wanted a proper full-sized British family car with a genuine sense of occasion, the Phase 3 arrived in 1955 but remained very much part of the 1960s ownership experience for thousands of families. It looked imposing. It felt substantial. The 2.1-litre four-cylinder engine offered reasonable performance on open roads. But the real problems began almost immediately after purchase. The build quality across the entire car was deeply inconsistent. Body seams that should have been properly sealed were not. Water crept inside through joints and channels, creating a hidden rot that spread unseen beneath paint and trim for months. Then came the issue that destroyed the car's reputation entirely. The gearbox, a notoriously difficult unit to operate, wore rapidly and became almost undrivable. Repairs cost a fortune, and owners who thought they'd bought British prestige were ultimately left with an enormously expensive, crumbling disappointment. Number 2. Hillman Imp. Now things get significantly worse. The Hillman Imp, launched in 1963, was Rootes Group's bold challenge to the mighty Mini. A rear-engined economy car built in Linwood, Scotland, the Imp promised affordable modernity and efficient family motoring. Rootes had invested heavily, and early enthusiasm was very real. Then came the catastrophic collapse. The Imp's 875cc aluminium overhead cam engine was genuinely innovative in theory. In practice, it was a disaster. The engine overheated chronically because the cooling system was fundamentally inadequate for the design. Head gaskets failed with alarming frequency. Coolant leaked constantly. Oil consumption was alarming even from nearly new cars. But that wasn't the end of the nightmare. The throttle cable had a documented tendency to stick fully open at speed. Imagine that. A family car accelerating uncontrollably because of a known design flaw that Rootes refused to properly address. Owners complained bitterly. Mechanics shook their heads. The Hillman Imp became a cautionary tale still discussed among automotive historians. Number 1. Reliant Regal. Here we are, number 1. And this one is genuinely hard to believe. The Reliant Regal was a three-wheeled microcar built by the Reliant Motor Company in Tamworth, Staffordshire. One wheel at the front, two at the rear. Built entirely from fiberglass. It required only a motorcycle license to drive. And thousands of British families chose it as their primary family transport throughout the 1960s. Take a moment to consider that. One front wheel. Children in the back. A 701cc two-cylinder engine producing barely 25 horsepower. And this is where it becomes truly unbelievable. The Reliant Regal had a fundamental tendency to tip over on corners. Not a rumor. Not exaggerated. The geometry of three wheels combined with a high center of gravity created genuine rollover risk at perfectly normal everyday driving speeds. If you remember seeing one of these on British roads, you are not alone. And if you ever actually saw one tipped over, you understand absolutely everything. 10 cars. 10 families who deserved better. The 1960s promised Britain something special: progress, prosperity, and a new kind of freedom on the open road. Instead, thousands of households got rust, failed engines, empty bank accounts, and bitter regret. Each car on this list carried real stories of real disappointment. But nothing, absolutely nothing, compared to the Reliant Regal. If you've been nodding along with painful recognition, we want to hear from you in the comments below. And if you enjoy British automotive history, subscribe to Britain Rewind. There's so much more to discover, and some of it is as unbelievable as this.